Hey, what's going on, guys? It's Jack. Back again to bring you Mythic Kil'jaeden, the healing guide. Everything you need to know about Mythic Kil'jaeden, and also just some of my thoughts as we've just done the fight, and how many pulls it really took us. I think it was about 580 pulls total that it took us to take care of it. So, right off the bat, you're seeing right here, and I specifically want to start off with some of the disc ramp up. I always try to prioritize getting the Armageddon soak first here, so I kind of stand away from the group, get my Armageddon soak. Lots about to happen right here. First, Armageddon lands, I start applying atonements very, very quickly. I try to get my Innervate here very, very rapidly, so I'm running back in, trying to get about 10 atonements out whenever possible. Double-powered Radiancing, Evangelism, Velen's, Light's Wrath, all of the mix is getting used here, and I'm using my Light's Wrath specifically for the third blast that comes out from the adds there. It's very, very important with how big of the damage is actually happening at any one point in time. It's very, very important to be using your Light's Wrath for the third blast, because that's when all three of the adds will be up at the same time and deal damage to the entire group. That last add, usually, you know, the two adds that are on his flanks, on his left and right side, those will get cleaned up pretty quick. But usually the one on the pile on top of the group and stuff like that will take a little bit longer. So you want to make sure you're having your heaviest hitting ability there for the biggest burst of damage. And again, it takes some practice to get the ramp up done perfectly, but the basic gist of it, and you'll be able to see it in my last casted abilities in the top left, is to prioritize, you know, getting that Light's Wrath off for the third one. You want to be able to have Valens, you want to be able to have barrier down, you want to make sure you have Evangelism, you want to have Shadow Fiend, you want to have your Owl Trinket, all kind of bursting up at the exact same time. Here we just had our first tank ad that we're dealing with here, so we had, you know, one of our knockbacks that we're having in the middle of the room, and right there, of course, because we kill it pretty slowly here, and at least we did on our first kill, we just prioritized getting everybody to survive, basically. You know, ideally you want to be able to kill the ad leaves a debuff on the boss, and from there you'll be dispelling the tank right as you get knocked back. But of course, it's not that big of a deal. As long as you have a Warlock, you can get the Dispel off, or so you can just take the portal instead of having to burn the ad really, really quickly and things like that. So it works out pretty well. The later ads that you'll see, we do kill them in time for the more annoying knockbacks and stuff like that. So in this transition phase, a lot of times it can seem that it's very, very annoying to deal with. But what I'm trying to do here is I'm trying to maintain Purge the Wicked on the boss whenever possible. Sometimes, you know, you're just going to be out of range and it doesn't work out too well. But overall, I'm trying to make sure I'm using my Powered Shields on cooldown. When I'm in range of the boss, right as you're seeing right here, instantly applying Purge the Wicked and doing whatever I can, basically, to make sure that there's still some kind of dots and still some kind of damage rolling, and I'll be getting some kind of extra atonement healing out of it. It really depends, unfortunately, on a little bit of RNG for your positioning as to how aggressive that you really can be in terms of your just big ramp-ups and the big healing that you'll be able to do. I've had a number of times where, because I was a Goblin, I was able to use my Light's Wrath here, my second Light's Wrath, basically. But it also depends. I mean, if you play that aggressively, you'll basically be using your Goblin Jump in that situation to be playing it very aggressively to do healing, which may or may not be required, which may or may not be needed in order to be getting the boss down. And in that situation, if you get into something very unfavorable, kind of like how I did on this transition phase, you know, you don't have anything else to really lean on. So you have to be very careful there. If you are a Goblin, which as a Priest is really, really helpful, or just as any race in general, it can be very helpful for staying on the platform here. You have to be very, very mindful of, you know, your positioning on this fight and stuff like that. So here we got out of the first transition phase, and we're about to be healing up these adds. When Armageddon lands, I get my second Innervate, and I start hotting up just the entire group. Instead of actually having to target these adds, all I do is I just put Powered Radiance on basically the other healers. So I'll cast Powered Radiance on myself if I don't have Atonement. I'll cast it on one of the other healers if they don't have Atonement, something like that. Because Powered Radiance will automatically target those debuffed adds, and they will just instantly apply Atonement to them, making your life very, very easy. And again, it's just another ramp up. It's a good time basically for this ramp up, because you'll be able to have all your CDs back for whenever the next big damage really strikes. So you might as well really take advantage of them. There is a little bit of damage that comes out from when those adds are topped off, so there is damage on the raid to be healing, and there is healing to be done on topping off those adds. It's very, very important just to kind of maintain control over whenever those adds are detonating, because you want to be able to take advantage, of course, of the mana return that topping off each ad will give you. It gives you about a 5 or 6 second buff. That'll give you extra mana. And of course, it does not stack. It just refreshes the duration to the original, I think it's like 6 seconds. So if you start off one, it ticks once, and then you get another one popped, then it starts over from the very beginning, and you miss out on a lot of potential mana. So you're going to have to play it as you go. It's pretty difficult, to perfectly space out every single one. So all you have to do here is just, kind of do your best. The first one does get taken care of pretty rapidly, at least it did in our group. Rapture cooldown, I'm always trying to make sure I'm using Rapture. Basically when there's not heavy damage going on. I mean, when there's multiple Armageddons going on, it's usually a good time for it. I use Rapture after my first DPS adds ramp up phase. And then again, I'm just kind of using it on cooldown during the transition phase, and then I'm using it, of course, just kind of in between different big damage spikes that are happening and stuff like that, in between those damage spikes. Whenever the tank, of course, has that debuff on him, I'm always trying to stand on top of the tank, because you want to make sure that, because it's very, very easy to get out of range of the tank here as you're both getting knocked back. So I usually just stand right on top of the tank. Often I'll use pain suppression on them. It kind of depends on how long the duration is going to be. We've had times where we kill the ad really early, where you really want to use pain suppression on them. We've also had times where the debuff goes on the tank right as we're getting knocked back, and there's no real point to use it there. Second DPS ads come out, again, trying to make sure I'm getting up to that 17 to 20 atonement mark. And of course, the third wave of ads and the damage that comes out from them, I am using my Light's Wrath. You saw there that I actually started casting Light's Wrath, and I stopped it. Just wanted to make sure that I had it landing at the right time. I wasn't perfect in my landing, but it was very important just that it would hit after the damage and not before. The balls that are coming out from your DPSers, they're very easy to dodge if you set your particle density down to the lowest setting. If you have it on higher settings, there's like extra flake and extra graphics that are around these balls that go out, and it makes it a lot more difficult to see exactly where they are. So set your particle density to low there, and it'll be much, much easier in order to see the balls and move away from them pretty easily. And then when you're progressing on this boss, just make that a priority, because once you're kind of used to, getting out of range of them and standing out of the way, it makes life a lot easier. Now this is the second healing ads that are coming out. We're making sure we're getting stacked up pretty tight here, and of course I am applying those atonements very, very quickly. And you also are in this really awkward position because we're about to transition the boss here. So everyone basically stops damage. I make sure I'm in range of the tank, and then I just make sure that I'm still getting some atonement healing in out of this. This is, again, like I said, kind of an awkward phase for us. We're just getting our final ad healed up just as the phase starts. We are putting the boss in that corner there, so it's a little ring around the boss. There's a small radius, I think it's like 40 yards around the boss where the ads can actually spawn from. And from here, I'm actually just trying to pace myself. This is kind of an awkward phase in the night phase. It should go very, very rapidly. But also, you want to make sure that you are killing all the ads, getting knocked back, planting your feet, applying atonement, and then hopefully you're getting like a big Light's Wrath in, ideally. So it's kind of an awkward position to be in. And it might work a little bit better if you're applying all your atonements very early while you're still in the night phase. Then hitting evangelism, then you get knocked back, and basically you have a lot of downtime where there isn't really much atonement healing happening, but you have all your atonements out already, so all you have to do is drop barrier, hit Velens, and then Light's Wrath, something like that. That can work pretty well. But as long as you have like a barrier down for that, you should be able to survive it in short order, and you'll usually just be using maybe a minor healer cooldown, something like that. Entering phase 3. Phase 3 is decidedly unremarkable compared to other mythic end phases and stuff like that, which is also really nice because this fight is extremely tedious. You will have a lot of wipes in the first 2 phases. You'll have a lot of wipes to people just falling off the platform, so it is nice to be able to take advantage of this. It's just very important to not get kind of lost in like patterns and things like that, where you're expecting the ball to come out, then you're expecting lasers, because sometimes it happens at different times. And you really have to be keeping an eye on your timers here. So like right here, I barely get in right before the lasers come out. I have like a little bit of time to spare, but not that much. So it's very, very easy. They're very, very important to keep an eye on your timers. It's also very awkward, as you're seeing here, that we instantly popped the fireball there, and it's spread out everywhere, and we have to dodge that. And as a result, we're going to have more damage on the group coming into this phase right here. And as you see, I'm actually using about 8 or 9 atonements. Then I'm getting my double-powered radiances in, and I'm making sure that I actually survive this real quick. And my positioning actually wasn't super good. I wanted to be able to actually have my Light's Wrath. Actually, my Light's Wrath was a little bit late, so I didn't actually have my Light's Wrath yet. But I just got it right here. So if my Light's Wrath lined up a little bit better, I'd be able to have all my atonements out and use Light's Wrath and instantly kind of reverse that damage. That's the end goal. It doesn't always happen perfectly. So that's something to kind of keep an eye out for, because there is still quite a bit of damage happening over the course of this phase, and being able to go from an evangelism into like a rapture, for example, is really, really nice, especially when you're popping your owl and stuff like that. So again, we're marking these safe zones where everyone can go stand. It is important once you get to those positions, kind of look for any stragglers. I didn't have it in this video, but on some of our early progression kills and things like that, I had a lot of moments where I was able to grip people, keep them safe, get them into a more favorable position, and then it really made life a lot easier. When you know, for example, are saving a healer, you're saving a DPS, things like that, it makes it go a lot faster here. So again, you know, you have to really watch out for these fire patches. I think we did really screw these up on our kill, but it was also fortunate that, you know, we were able to have everybody alive going into this until until the very last second, basically, and in which case we were already in a position to kill the boss, you know. So getting into this phase with a lot of people alive, making sure just about everyone survives the big lasers and things like that is just so crazy imperative, and it really makes a very big difference going into it. So, you know, again, your priority here is just keeping alive as best as you can and kind of following a lot of the mechanics as they come on. You know, we're really very lucky there, as that rift basically immediately collapses right after the damage happens, just because there were so many fire pools that were really getting fed into it there. So getting the boss down, I believe, like I said, it was about 580 wipes that we had to go through, and it really was a hell of a fight. It really was a hell of a road for us. So hope you all found some of these boss tips and tricks useful to your raid groups as you're going forward. And of course, if you have any kind of questions, you can always leave a comment in the sections below. If you ever want to catch my live stream, where we are always going to be streaming our Mythic raid progression and all that good stuff, you'll be able to check that out. Also linked in the description below. Weekora's UI, all my UI exports, all that kind of stuff, also linked in the description below. So be sure to check all those links out. Thank you so much for watching, guys. I hope you all found it helpful. Hope you all found it useful, and I will catch you all tomorrow.